Here are the Amish's 40 sewing hacks and tips that you wish you knew sooner. Fasten cape aprons using straight dressmaker pins. Instead of sewing cape aprons into the dress, Amish women use straight dressmaker pins for fastening. This method keeps the apron modestly secure while allowing flexibility throughout the day. The fine steel of the pin grips the dense weave of homespun fabrics without tearing them. Insert the pin through only the apron layer and the lining, not the dress bodice, so the pin doesn't restrict movement. Friction alone holds it in place, thanks to the small surface area and firm pressure. Avoid using bent pins or pinning too close to the edge. Keep extras pinned to an inside seam for quick changes. Sew dresses on foot-powered treadle machine. The treadle machine operates through coordinated foot motion, converting energy into consistent sewing power. Sit comfortably with your back straight and your feet flat on the treadle base. Gently rock your feet to start the momentum, which turns the flywheel via a leather belt. This mechanism allows for precise stitch control without electricity, ideal for long tasks like gathering skirts or reinforcing seams. The slower pace reduces thread breakage and minimizes errors from fast stitching. If you're just learning, begin by threading scrap fabric to build coordination. Over time, your rhythm becomes second nature and your seams perfectly uniform. Pair treadle machines facing each other. Placing two treadle machines face-to-face makes sewing more collaborative and efficient. This layout allows partners to share fabric alignment, pass materials, and discuss design choices in real time. From a structural standpoint, it also makes excellent use of natural or lamplight by minimizing shadow. Position each machine so the treadle bases don't overlap, leaving legroom while keeping arm's reach for shared tools like thread spools or scissors. Conversation flows easily across the table, which helps when planning matching garments. For quilting bees or dressmaking days, it fosters both precision and community, a hallmark of Amish craftsmanship. Tighten quilts on ratcheted wooden floor frame. Even pressure across all fabric layers is essential for clean, uniform quilting. Ratcheted floor frames accomplish this by allowing fine control over fabric tension. Start by pinning or basting the quilt layers and rolling them onto the wooden bars. Then slowly crank the ratchets at both ends to tighten the fabric evenly. The wooden teeth grip securely, unlike smooth poles that allow slippage. If one side seems loose, adjust in small increments to avoid skewing. Keeping fabric taut ensures that your stitches remain even and your pattern stays aligned. A good rule: tighten before every session for optimal results. Suspend quilt frame from ceiling hooks. For rooms that serve multiple purposes, suspending a quilt frame from ceiling hooks offers flexibility without clutter. Using a pulley system or strong rope tied to each frame corner, raise the frame after sewing hours to free floor space for meals or prayer gatherings. Gravity helps keep the suspended frame stable and aligned while in use, minimizing tension shifts. Be sure hooks are anchored into ceiling joists, not just paneling, to prevent collapse. When it's lowered again, the frame returns to quilting height with all tension preserved. A gentle tug on the rope makes adjustments quick and effortless. Piece dresses from matched floral feed sacks. Repurposing feed sacks into dresses began as a necessity and evolved into an art of coordination. Matching prints from different sacks shows both thrift and design sense. Select sacks with similar florals, preferably from the same mill or dye lot, to ensure uniform fading and print scale. Wash them first to soften the weave and remove any residual starch. Cut large panels like skirts or sleeves from the least worn sections. Use smaller scraps for collars or cuffs to extend use. Balance floral direction on both sides of the garment. Reinforce high-stress seams with muslin if the sack fabric shows signs of thinning. Soak feed sack logos overnight to fade. Faded logos are ideal when the printed sack design competes with the garment's modest style. Among Amish homemakers, soaking logos in a buttermilk and warm water mixture is a favored method for gentle fading. The mild acidity lifts ink pigments without harming the cotton. Avoid vigorous rubbing. Just let time and solution do the work. After soaking, rinse thoroughly and let dry flat in a shaded area. Repeat if needed for stubborn prints. This method preserves the cloth's integrity while making it suitable for bodices, aprons, or other plain garment pieces. Always test a corner first to avoid uneven fading. Save scraps for sunshine and shadows quilt. Small scraps often become the foundation of something far greater. The Sunshine and Shadows quilt design relies on high contrast, alternating dark and light tones in a radiating pattern. In many Amish households, this design symbolizes the balance between joy and hardship. Trim scraps into equal-sized squares and press them flat before assembling. Work from the center outward to maintain symmetry and alignment. Use darker tones at the border for visual grounding. If you're low on certain shades, consider repeating prints strategically. Even narrow trimmings can become border strips or triangle corners with a bit of extra planning. Tie quilts with dark yarn tufts. Using yarn to tie a quilt adds durability and rustic charm, especially for bed covers meant to last. Dark wool yarn holds up well to frequent handling and stays less visibly worn over time. Thread the yarn through all quilt layers and secure it with a tight, square knot. Space tufts every 4 inches for even coverage without stiffness. Instead of cutting all tufts the same length, vary them slightly for a textured finish. Amish quilters often favor this method for utility quilts. It's fast, strong, and functional. Use contrasting yarn in select blocks to create a subtle, decorative rhythm. Bury thread knots inside quilt layers. Neatly hidden knots make a finished quilt more durable and visually smooth. Start with a secure quilter's knot at the end of your thread, then insert your needle just beside your starting point and guide it into the batting layer without piercing the backing. Pull gently until the knot pops beneath the top fabric. This simple but essential step is common among traditional quilters who prioritize clean finishes and long-lasting structure. Check tension with a small tug, then begin stitching. If the thread runs short before the section is complete, bury the end and restart with a fresh length. Pre-wash dark solids with vinegar set. Dark fabrics tend to bleed, especially when paired with light colors in quilts or dresses. A soak in cold water mixed with vinegar helps set the dye before cutting begins. The acetic acid in vinegar binds unstable pigment particles to cotton fibers, reducing color loss during future washes. For best results, soak the fabric for several hours, then rinse and dry in shade. This practice is especially helpful when sewing with contrasting pieces. After rinsing, press the fabric lightly before cutting to restore crispness. Test a swatch first with a damp cloth to check if more soaking is needed. Trace pattern pieces onto newspaper templates. Creating reusable templates is a simple way to save time over many sewing projects. Newspaper, when clean and laid flat, provides a stable surface for tracing patterns. Mark seam allowances, darts, grain lines, and fold indicators carefully with pencil or chalk. While thinner than cardboard, newspaper is flexible and easily rolled for storage. Families who make frequent use of the same dress or apron pattern often keep these templates for decades. Be sure to trace on the dull side of the paper to avoid smearing ink onto fabric. Add hole punches at key markings for pin-through guidance when cutting. Roll patterns inside large canning jars. A surprising storage solution comes in the form of a simple canning jar. Rolled templates, cut from newspaper or parchment, fit neatly inside wide-mouthed jars, protecting them from dust, rodents, and moisture. In some Amish households, this method is used to organize multi-generational patterns by size or wearer. Each jar can be labeled with a fabric ribbon or scrap tied neatly around the rim. Glass offers the added benefit of visibility, so you can grab what you need without unrolling everything. Keep similar garments grouped together in a basket nearby for easy rotation throughout the year. Magnetize spare pins to treadle plate. It's easy to misplace pins when sewing quickly, but did you know that your sewing machine can help? By rubbing a small household magnet across the treadle's flat metal plate in one direction, you can magnetize the surface temporarily. The aligned metal particles hold steel pins securely in place without extra containers. This method works best with thinner pins and smooth surfaces. While rarely mentioned aloud, it's a common trick in experienced sewing rooms. Avoid rubbing magnets near the belt housing or any moving joints. Remagnetize every few days for a consistent hold and wipe down the plate to keep dust from interfering. Oil treadle joints monthly using sewing oil. Sewing machines, like any tool used daily, require regular care. A drop of sewing oil applied monthly to moving parts, especially pedal joints, connecting rods, and belt pivots, keeps things running smoothly. Many Amish households keep oiling as part of a set rhythm, passed down alongside the machines themselves. Too much oil attracts dust, so always wipe away excess with a soft cloth. Look out for squeaks or resistance, which can signal dry spots. If you notice black grime collecting around joints, clean it with a soft cloth before oiling again. Store the bottle upright in a cool, dry cabinet. Place pedal atop carpet scrap preventing skid. Not all treadle machines stay perfectly still on smooth flooring. Placing a thick carpet scrap beneath the pedal helps anchor it in place and prevents sliding during use. This adds comfort to long sewing sessions, especially when precision and rhythm matter. In Amish homes, older rugs or felt remnants often find new purpose under sewing equipment. Choose a scrap with enough texture to grip both the floor and the base of the machine. If the carpet compresses too much, double it with a firmer pad underneath. Rotate the rug monthly to prevent wear patterns from forming underfoot. Secure cap ribbons with tiny hand stitches. Delicate stitching ensures cap ribbons stay in place without drawing attentions. Using a fine needle and matching thread makes small, even stitches along the inside edge of the ribbon band. Avoid sewing through to the outer layer of the cap to maintain a clean look. Stitch only the edge of the ribbon to the lining, not the outer shell. Shorter stitches offer more strength and invisibility. Pin both ribbons in place first to keep them even on both sides. For long-lasting wear, reinforce the ends of each ribbon with a second line of stitching where stress tends to occur. Cut pleats exact width using wooden gauge. Precision pleats begin with consistent measuring. A narrow strip of wood marked at even intervals makes a perfect pleat gauge. 1-inch spacing is common, though this can be adjusted to suit your pattern. Hold the gauge firmly against the fabric, fold to match the next mark, and pin each pleat before moving forward. This ensures even distribution and symmetry throughout the garment. Such simple tools are often handmade and used for years. Sand the wood smooth and label marks clearly for easy reference. To reduce shifting while folding, press lightly with a warm iron as each pleat is formed. Fold skirt hem twice, blind stitch neatly. Nothing finishes a skirt more neatly than a double-folded hem, secured by blind stitching. Begin by folding the raw edge under once, then again to conceal it completely, usually a total of 2 inches. Use tiny diagonal stitches that catch only the inner layer and a thread or two of the outer fabric. This creates a strong hem with almost no visible stitching. It's a technique passed quietly from one generation to the next in households where hand finishing is the norm. For crisp results, press each fold before sewing. Mark your hemline with chalk beforehand for precise alignment. Air quilts outdoors on frosty mornings. There's a reason cold air is prized for airing bedding. Frosty mornings reduce dust mites, absorb moisture, and freshen heavy quilts without detergent or agitation. Drape the quilt, backing side up over a clean line or rail in filtered shade. Let it rest in the cold for 1 to 2 hours, then shake it gently to release any loosened particles. In Amish communities, this practice is part of seasonal household rhythms, especially in winter. Avoid placing quilts in direct sun as that may fade colors. On dry, crisp days, turn the quilt once midway through for even exposure. Flat fell backing seams entirely by hand. Smooth backing seams matter just as much as the front. A flat-felled seam encloses raw edges and lies flat, perfect for layered quilts. Begin with wrong sides together and sew a straight seam. Trim one edge down, then fold the longer edge over it and turn under the raw edge. Stitch flat by hand with small, even stitches. The result is strong, neat, and snag resistant. Though slower than machine work, it's favored for special pieces or heirloom quilts. If your fabric frays easily, use pinking shears before folding to reduce edge unraveling before completing the fell. Join batting pieces with herringbone ladder stitch. Batting leftovers can be joined smoothly with careful hand stitching. Lay the pieces edge to edge and sew with a loose herringbone or ladder stitch, alternating from one side to the other. This distributes tension and allows the seam to stretch and shift with the quilt. Many who quilt without electricity, including some Amish women, rely on this method to reduce waste and preserve softness. Overlap edges slightly for more strength, then flatten the seam between your hands. Keep the stitch loose enough to stay flexible, but close enough to hold firm under regular use. Tie small scissors to apron lanyard. Keeping scissors close saves time and prevents interruptions. Tie a small pair to a waist-high cotton lanyard or apron tie using sturdy thread or thin ribbon. This way, trimming threads or cutting fabric edges happens without leaving the machine. Be sure the scissors are lightweight to avoid tugging the fabric or shifting the apron. Position them to the neutral dominant side to stay clear of the working hand. In many Amish homes, tools are worn rather than stored for quick access. Wrap the scissor points in a scrap of flannel when not in use to avoid accidental snags or cuts. Bundle thread spools inside cotton sock. Did you know that loose spools can be tangled quickly in sewing baskets? To keep them contained, place several spools into a clean cotton sock and tie off the open end with twine. This simple pouch prevents thread tails from unwinding and makes transport easy. Choose a thick, worn sock without holes for best results. Press each spool gently into place so they sit snugly, reducing movement. While not decorative, this trick is popular among those who favor practicality over display. For extra organization, separate light and dark threads into different socks and tie a scrap of colored fabric at the toe as a label. Rub candle stub along shuttle grooves. A simple candle can improve machine movement significantly. Rubbing a wax stub gently along the shuttle grooves and bobbin track reduces friction and helps parts glide smoothly. Beeswax or unscented candles work best, leaving just enough residue to ease motion without buildup. Avoid applying too much, especially near the needle area. Those who sew regularly without electricity often keep a wax stub in a drawer beneath the treadle. Reapply after cleaning or if parts begin to squeak. If wax dust gathers, brush lightly with a small piece of muslin to maintain a clean, smooth track for sewing. Sharpen needles in emery strawberry cushion. Dull needles can cause skipped stitches and tug delicate fabric. A small emery-filled strawberry, often attached to a larger pin cushion, can restore sharpness. Insert the needle into the cushion repeatedly, rotating as you go to polish all sides. The abrasive emery particles smooth out burrs and refine the tip. Use this method regularly if you will notice resistance while sewing. In Amish quilting circles, such cushions are kept within arm's reach during long hand-stitching sessions. For extra polish, dip the needle in fine sand before using the cushion. Then wipe it clean with a soft cloth before threading. Press seams beneath cast iron skillet weight. If you don't have an iron handy, a cold cast iron skillet can help press seams flat. Once the seam is finger pressed, place the clean skillet on top and let it sit for several minutes. The weight alone helps set the fold, especially on sturdy cotton or linen. Many Amish households rely on such multi-use tools in both kitchen and sewing room. For better results, warm the skillet slightly on a stove, never hot, and wrap it in a thin towel before applying to fabric. Rotate the pan across long seams or hems for even pressure and lasting creases. Stack blocks between recycled bed sheets neatly. Quilt blocks stay cleaner and flatter when stored between soft layers. Cut old bed sheets into large squares and stack them alternately with finished blocks. This prevents fraying and keeps each block separate without the need for plastic or rubber bands. Some Amish quilters use muslin scraps instead, especially when working with dark or lint-prone fabrics. Lay the stack inside a basket or drawer, aligning corners to avoid bending edges. For added order, label each sheet with a pin tag indicating the block's pattern or row number. This helps speed up assembly when it's time to piece the top. Trace quilt circles using china saucer. When perfect curves are needed, look no further than the kitchen shelf. A smooth-edged china saucer makes an ideal template for marking quilt circles. Lay the saucer upside down over your fabric and trace with a fine chalk pencil or soap sliver. The weight of the dish keeps it steady while drawing, preventing shifting. This works well for applique, circular patchwork, or quilting motifs. In some Amish households, treasured dishes do double duty at both the table and the sewing frame. To maintain symmetry, stack your traced fabric pieces and trim them all at once using sharp shears. Mark hems with chalked yardstick touching floor. Uniform hems begin with an even baseline. Stand the wearer on a hard surface and hold a chalked yardstick vertically or resting it lightly on the floor. As they rotate slowly, touch the hemline with the edge of the stick, transferring a faint chalk mark around the skirt. This low-tech measuring method ensures the hem remains consistent even if the floor or garment shifts. The technique is passed on in many Amish homes, particularly when making plain dresses that rely on perfect proportion. For best visibility, use white chalk on dark fabrics and colored chalk on light materials. Clip threads with snips hung beside frame. A well-placed pair of thread snips can save countless steps. Hang them from the side of your quilt frame using a ribbon or cord looped through the handle. This keeps them at hand for trimming tails or clipping seams without having to fumble through baskets. Keep the cord short enough that the snips don't drag on the floor. For safety, tie a small scrap of cloth around the blades when not in use. Although it's a simple habit, it reflects the Amish value of keeping workspaces both tidy and efficient. Replace snips when they begin to pinch rather than cut. Carry pocket mending kit in drawstring bag. Minor repairs don't wait for a quiet room or a free afternoon. A small drawstring pouch filled with thread, needles, thimble, and tiny scissors can be carried in a coat pocket or apron. This makes mending possible during short moments throughout the day, between tasks, at gatherings, or while watching children. Many women who live without modern conveniences, including the Amish, rely on such portable kits for daily upkeep. Use scrap fabric to make the bag and line it with muslin to keep sharp tools from poking through. Add a folded card with pre-threaded needles for quicker access. Backstitch bonnet brim gathers for durability. Gathered sections of a bonnet brim must withstand repeated wear and washing. Using a backstitch, firm, overlapping stitches that reinforce each segment keeps the gathers from loosening or breaking. Start by drawing even gathering lines, then pull the threads gently before securing them with tight back and forth stitching. While slower than a running stitch, this method holds strong over time. Amish bonnets, often worn daily, require such durability in both construction and maintenance. For extra strength, double your thread and wax it lightly before beginning. Always knot securely at both ends of the gathered line to avoid unraveling later. Reinforce overall buttons with linen thread. Heavy garments like overalls place extra strain on buttons. Reinforcing them with linen thread, stronger and more abrasion-resistant than cotton, can make a noticeable difference in longevity. Thread the needle with 2 strands, knotting securely before sewing through the fabric and buttonholes several times. Finish with a shank by wrapping thread under the button, which adds space and reduces stress on the fabric. In homes where garments are often handed down, including among Amish families, such sturdy details are highly valued. As a final touch, dab a drop of wax on the knot to protect it during wash and wear. Replace treadle belts with hand-cut leather. When the treadle machine slows or slips, the belt is often the cause. Replace it with a strip of hand-cut leather for better traction and durability. Cut to length from a rawhide strap, taper the ends, and punch a hole through each with an awl. Fasten using a belt hook or small nail bent into a clasp. The natural texture grips the flywheel more effectively than synthetic options. Some Amish families keep spare strips coiled in sewing baskets for quick repair. Rub a bit of wax or soap onto the leather to reduce squeaking and improve glide during use. Sort fabric by color in flour sacks. Color organization makes sewing projects more efficient and reduces waste. Old flour sacks, washed and stitched closed at the bottom, work perfectly as storage bags. Group fabrics by general shade, lights, mediums, and darks. Not only does this preserve color vibrancy, it also speeds up quilt planning and garment matching. In many Amish households, fabric is stored this way inside cedar-lined trunks or wooden drawers. Label each sack with a stitched patch to show contents at a glance. For easier stacking, fold each fabric piece to the same size before slipping it into the sack with edges tucked inward. Heat, sad iron on stove. Press muslin. Sad irons offer a steady weight and dry heat ideal for pressing seams. Warm the iron directly on a wood or coal stove until it reaches the desired temperature. Test on scrap muslin first to avoid scorching. Once heated, lift with a cloth or wooden handle cover and glide over the fabric slowly using firm pressure. This method is especially useful for pressing plain cotton or muslin. Among Amish seamstresses, sad irons are still preferred for their weight and reliability. For smoother results, Press with a folded flour sack cloth between the iron and fabric to prevent shine or darkening. Pin layers with reused horse blanket pins. Thicker pins offer the grip needed for holding dense layers during the quilting or mending. Horse blanket pins, long, curved, and sturdy, are often repurposed for this task. Insert them through all quilt layers at even intervals to keep the sandwich stable while tying or hand quilting. Some families store them in tins near the sewing frame, passed down through generations. While not delicate, they're well suited to heavier work. For cleaner piercing, rub each pin lightly with wax before use. To avoid puckering, smooth each section flat before pinning, working outward from the center of the quilt or garment. Stitch initials inside garments with dark thread. A simple way to identify clothing in large households is to hand stitch initials on the inside. Use dark thread for contrast, choosing an inconspicuous corner such as the inner waistband or neckline lining. Mark lightly with chalk first, then stitch small, consistent letters using backstitch or split stitch. In Amish families where clothing is often shared, passed down, or made in similar colors, initials help keep items sorted. Avoid stitching through all layers to keep the letters from showing on the outside. For longer names or multiple family members, consider adding a year or number beside the initials.